Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Celia Ward-Wallace. I am a co-founder of South LA Cafe, a long-term South Central resident, as well as a mother and wife here in the neighborhood. And I'm coming to you today with a friend, a colleague, someone working with the government right now on all the important things related to COVID-19, as well as the stimulus packages. Norchelle Brown is a friend of mine. She and I were actually collaborating on a Women in Politics event that we were going to host this past month at South LA Cafe. However, given the intervention of COVID-19 into all of our lives, we've had to shut that down for now. Of course, I know in the future we'll definitely get back to hosting live events together. But in the meantime, we've stayed connected, and we're deeply committed to working together to really get all of the amazing information that she's receiving with her deep relationships with our elected officials, and get that information so that we can bring it out into the public. So hello, Norchelle, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Celia. How's everything going?
Everything's good. I'm going to just really quickly read your bio just so everybody can see how awesome you are. Not that you need a great bio to show that, but I do think it's cool for people to understand exactly who you are and what you do, given the context of what we're going to cover today. So Norchelle is a Watts Willowbrook native dedicated to the success of her community and maintaining its legacy. With a solution-based philosophy, Norchelle has been able to impact change at each level of government and currently works as a policy assistant for the U.S. House of Representatives. That's so awesome. In this role, she focuses on issues directly impacting communities in South Central LA, including Compton and Watts Willowbrook. Understanding the need for different perspectives in the decision-making process, she serves on several panels and was recently appointed to the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Programs Executive Steering Committee. Cal VIP funds violence intervention and prevention initiatives across the entire state of California. Norchelle is also the founder and executive director of Civically Me, a nonprofit organization creating a culture of engagement for young voters throughout the election processes. And so we got together because I was tracking what you were doing with Civically Me. A lot of our folks in the Compton and Watts Willowbrook communities brought us together, and then we thought, let's collaborate, and it's been a really great and easy connection. And now, like I said, given everything that's going on, you've been really on the front lines of, or I should say behind the scenes of the people that are doing the grassroots work right now on the elected official side. And since you've been deeply involved in all of that, I wanted to bring you on today to talk to our folks in South Central, in Los Angeles, in California, and all throughout the country. And probably this conversation will actually make its way globally, as it usually does. So that being said, I know we were going to jump right into having a conversation. What we plan to cover today is a little bit of everything that we think could be helpful. We're not going to do a super deep dive into all of it, but we are going to touch upon a lot of different things. So we have planned to talk about the stimulus package, phase 3, stimulus package, what might happen in phase 4, the latest news from what our governor in California, Governor Newsom, has brought forth, what's happening with the schools, how to stay involved for those who want to stay connected and get involved in volunteering, what the options are there, and also for those who are on Social Security, the changes that are coming forth for that population. So that's all.
That's it. Not too much.
So where do you want to jump in? You lead and I'll follow.
So I think we can start with phase 3 of the stimulus package. You did mention Social Security, so I'll just briefly mention that as of yesterday, and this is very recent, so no longer will those who receive Social Security need to file anything with the IRS to receive the stimulus benefit that everyone's talking about. So that is a huge opportunity for those who are receiving Social Security, because a lot of them are 65 or older. And as we all know, we are asking them to stay inside. So this will no longer burden them with trying to figure out how they can get whatever they needed to the IRS. So that's huge. As we know, that stimulus package went to supporting individuals the unemployed, small businesses, as well as the larger corporations. And Celia, I know you know a lot about the small businesses. Do you want to cover that briefly and what that looks like?
Sure, I can jump in there. Again, I am an expert in many ways since I am a business coach and consultant and also a business owner myself. So I would say I'm an expert in those ways, and yet I am still, just like everybody else, trying to keep up with all of the changes that are happening so rapidly. So I can just tell you from what we've done and what we've learned very recently, as this is all unfolding so quickly. I'm definitely encouraging that everybody apply for the SBA disaster relief loan. There is a big loan program that's available that if you are a business who has faced a decrease in revenue as a result of COVID-19, you can apply for a relief loan through the SBA. That is something you definitely should apply for, and yet you should be prepared that it could take up to 3 months for somebody to get in touch with you and actually work with you on providing you financial relief. And so I know there is a very long backlog on that loan process, and yet at the same time, I would recommend you apply for it. There is also, the SBA has also put out an emergency relief program that's more like an advance. And so that is up to $10,000 in advance that they will give you if you similarly have a business that has been negatively affected by COVID-19. There is a second program that they're offering. So when you go to their page and you investigate what programs they offer, look for one, which is their bigger relief loan or disaster relief loan process. But then there's another one that's actually a $10,000 advance. That one I would also recommend that you apply for. And that sounds like it's getting processed a lot quicker. So maybe up to 2 to 3 weeks max, you should hopefully qualify and get a check in your bank account. And that being said, if you receive that, from what I understand, is there is a possibility that that would be completely forgiven, and so seen more like a grant. If you do qualify for the larger SBA relief loan, they will take that $10,000 that they already gave you and decrease it from the overall amount that they were planning to give you that you qualified for the SBA loan. In addition to that, there is also, I'm not sure if I'm going to say it correctly, but the PPP program, or the payroll protection program, or whatever they're calling it. And so that has just come out like 2 days ago, right? That was part of the overall stimulus bill, I guess they put forward. And on that, just to know that this is specifically oriented towards providing 2.5 times your average monthly payroll costs. So if you're a business where you've had employees and you have paid them on a monthly basis, so you have payroll, you're going to want to look at what your average for the year is on what you spent on payroll and take that amount. Let's say hypothetically it's $10,000. If you look at 2.5 times $10,000, that'd be $25,000. That is the amount that this program, which is a loan, would be able to offer to you. It's also something that is supposedly rolling out tomorrow. You would have to go through, it's not through the SBA, you're supposed to go through whoever you're doing your business banking with would be your first stop. So for example, if Chase is your business banker, most likely you will have already received an email from them. So depending on who you bank with, please make sure you check your email. I know we've received from two of the banks that we bank with have already contacted us saying they are going to be processing these types of loans, and please make sure that we know the process and that we apply. So supposedly it opens tomorrow. Some places it looks like it's actually already open, and I would encourage you to go ahead and apply as quickly as possible, because those are, again, a limited amount of funds, and if you qualify, you want to make sure that you are getting the payroll support. Now, again, this is the information I have. I'm not sure if it's 100% correct, but from my understanding, you receive those funds, and if you spend 75% or more of those funds on actual payroll, they say over the next 8 weeks, which I'm imagining, and you might have input, is it seems like that might be extended, because I can't imagine how businesses are going to be able to go back and put people on payroll and spend the funds within 8 weeks. given that we're still most of us are on a shutdown. But that being said, if you spend 75% or more of it on payroll, then from what they've said, what I understand is that you can later apply for that loan to be forgiven, right? To basically to be transitioned into a grant instead of a loan. So please make sure if you do apply for that, if you do receive the funds, you put that in a dedicated bank account that you're specifically allocating for payroll costs. And when you do payroll, you take your payroll payments out of that account, and you keep good records of that, because later on, that's something that you could get completely forgiven. And one thing to keep in mind from another question people are asking is, can I do the SBA disaster relief loan and do the PPP program? My understanding is you can do both. However, you won't be able to receive funds for the same thing in both. So if you receive the payroll funds in the one loan program, when you apply for the SBA loan program, you'll have to disclose that you've received funds from this other program, and they will still most likely give you a loan, but it will be decreased by the amount that you've received from the other loan program, which only makes sense, right? So, and yet at the same time, I would have you recommend that you apply for both. And for the larger SBA relief loan, mainly you would want to specify, if you're going to go for the PPP program also, that those funds are going to be utilized for operating expenses and, rent and inventory and things like that, not specifically for payroll. And so I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but I want to say one more thing is there does appear to be, at least on the LA city side, there is a microloan program. I'm imagining if you're not in LA City, every city I'm imagining has some sort of microloan program for small businesses. So look into that. I do know that ours, I believe, is up to $20,000. And this may be something, again, that you'll want to apply for, and yet it may take a while to go through, because I do know that there are a small group of people processing the loan applications for the City of LA microloan program. And yet at the same time, you'll want to go ahead and apply. So just two last things to mention about that I want to point out. If these are 4 different vehicles so far, if you're in the City of LA or nationwide, other than the microloan, that you can apply for. The 2 that it sounds like you would get funding for the quickest are the $10,000 advance program through SBA and the payroll protection program, or the PPP program, whatever. I don't know if I'm saying the acronym right, but those 2 you would probably get funding for the quickest. And so, and yet at the same time, apply for the larger SBA loan altogether. So that's my update. So how did I do?
Expert, definitely. I definitely could not have explained it as well as you, but I do want to also go into unemployment a little bit. It was just announced that over 6.6 million people recently applied for unemployment across the nation. And that actually is probably much higher because there's a lot of people who wasn't actually able to file that application. So please bear with the unemployment agencies. I know here in California, we have EDD, bear with them as they try to process those applications. There's been a lot of questions regarding the support to families and households. I recently received a question of whether or not someone who's married and they filed jointly will be able to receive the aid if their partner filed with an I-10, ITIN number, and they had a social security number. So there's plenty of questions out there and answers. So stay tuned. Hopefully we get to answer some of them. If not, please contact your local elected officials and ask them these questions. But there's plenty of questions out there, and it should be, because we need answers, right?
Can I ask on that front? It sounds like what you're saying is everybody is going to have a unique situation. And so it may be more complicated for some people than others, but in terms of the general package, do you have information about sort of what generally is going to be given and for who?
So generally, if you have filed individually, you make under $75,000 and you definitely filed either 2018 or 2019. Some people have not filed 2019 as of yet. you will receive, if you have direct deposit, you will receive $1,200 directly into your bank account. If not, you will receive a check. Now, the Secretary of the Department of the Treasury did state earlier today that he hopes to get the checks out within the next couple of weeks, if not a month. But he did,
Oh God.
right, he did state that there will be a link on the IRS website where you can just go in and input that information for your direct deposit if necessary, if you want your check much quicker. But hopefully we start to see some folks getting that direct deposit within the next week or two.
And then in addition, if you have children, is it $500 per child? Is that correct?
Yes. So it'll be $500 per each child. And then of course, if you make under 150,000 and you are a married couple, you will get $2,400. So still $1,200 each person.
And now if you make over those limits, will you get nothing, or is it, I think I saw that it's like incrementally less based on each extra 1,000 or something you made?
Phase out per every, I believe it's about $5,000, but when you get up to $99,000, that's when it starts to get around the zero range. But you definitely phase out if you make over $75,000 as an individual.
And now, is this a one-time payment or is this an ongoing payment? And I'm curious about it, once you answer that, how do they determine that?
Right. So right now it's looking like it's a one-time payment, and that's why phase 4 is definitely important, because the House Speaker stated that she felt like phase 3 didn't go far enough, and hopefully phase 4 can cover if we do need another payment to go out. But right now it is looking like a one-time payment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And is there anything else, any other highlights from the stimulus bill phase 3 that you think that people, that just even broad strokes, that anybody is going to really want to know?
Yes. So the majority of phase 3 was supposed to go towards healthcare, mitigating the support that they need. So I also want to make sure that people are aware of community health centers within their communities. You do not have to go to hospitals to get the services that you need. You can go to these health centers. They are also testing for COVID-19. So please find out where your local community health center is and give them a call before you just show up. Please don't just show up, but give them a call, because they are too receiving resources through the phase 3 of the stimulus package.
Can I ask a point of clarification on that? Because when I did my interview with Marquise Harris Dawson, our council, District 8 council member, he was saying at least at this time, and I know things are changing rapidly, is initially, if you think that you have COVID-19 or you have symptoms that you're not sure what's going on, that initially you would contact, email, phone call, something, a virtual appointment with your primary doctor or a doctor, and then and possibly an in-person appointment if those are being offered. And then once you do that, if they thought that you did potentially have COVID-19, then they would be referring you to one of those community health centers, I guess you're mentioning, where they actually would be doing testing, but that it would be on an appointment only basis.
So it may be different depending on your healthcare, your primary care physician. But what I've heard from people who've actually gone and tried to get tested is that they reached out to their doctors. They had a telehealth appointment, which is major right now. And the doctor asked her to go into an emergency room. So instead of her going to see the doctor, he said to go to the emergency room and get checked out there. And then they determined whether or not she was to get the testing.
Okay. So just for clarity, and it sounds like we don't have 100% clarity on this, but for anybody listening that it wants to know about testing, I think the main point is that testing is available, and that initially you may need to go through your medical provider, or if you don't have one, start with a local medical clinic and see where they're guiding you to do. But that if you do need to get tested, that there is a pathway for testing, and that, but it sounds like first that they might be doing some sort of assessment.
You cannot get tested right now if you are not showing symptoms, and that's really unfortunate. But if you are uninsured, please make sure to reach out to these health clinics as well.
And on that point, I just want to say, as of yesterday, I believe that our mayor, I'm not sure if it came from the governor or the mayor, but is recommending that anybody who leaves the house is wearing some sort of mask or a scarf over their nose and mouth area, just so that basically, because what they're saying is the first week when you have contracted the virus, you may not know because you may not have any symptoms. And that's actually when you are the most contagious. And so you really, out of protection for others, it's really important that when you leave the house, of course, the only reason you should be leaving the house are for essential services such as getting food or going to the doctor, but you would cover your face as well. From this point forward, it sounds like they're asking us all to do that as a preventative measure.
Absolutely. And as time goes by, we're going to start to see many more developments come out regarding COVID-19. The symptoms may change. I know there was a doctor out in, I believe, Washington that stated that some of the symptoms were different in patients that she was seeing, as far as red eyes. And there was a bunch of different elements that went into these symptoms that people were experiencing. So please stay tuned and watch the news and understand what your symptoms are, and be able to explain them to your healthcare, your primary care physician, because they may change. So please be sure to monitor yourselves. If you are having symptoms, please stay away from others, and be very careful when it comes to going outdoors.
I just wanted to jump back into the stimulus bill phase 3. And I don't know if this was a phase 2. I think this part might have been part of phase 2, but speaking to the unemployment benefits, at South LA Cafe, we have had to temporarily lay off or as they say, furlough a bulk of our staff members. And in our case, we decided to do that because we wanted to make sure that they received the benefits that were available for them so that they could continue to support their households, especially since there was going to be a decrease, if not a complete stop of all hours for them. But from what I've seen, and I just want to know if this sounds accurate, or if you can confirm this, that there seems to be 3 different ways, 3 different situations that qualify you for being able to apply for unemployment. One would be what I just described. If your hours have been, decreased, or if you've been completely laid off temporarily or fired from your job, then you would be able to apply for unemployment. If you are caring for somebody that has COVID-19 and you've had to leave your job because you've become a caregiver for somebody that has the virus, or if you yourself have the virus and you're unable to work. My understanding those are sort of 3 different classifications for applying for unemployment. Does that sound correct to you?
That's absolutely correct. And under that phase 3, there's been a lot of changes with unemployment right now. I know that even independent contractors can apply as well. So please be sure to contact your local elected officials and understand who is covered and who isn't, because there's a lot more people covered that wouldn't normally be covered.
Yeah, that's a great point. I did just see that recently, that you can apply if you're an independent contractor or a gig worker or something like that, or I think even self-employed. So those are important things to look into. But my main thought in general with all of these things, whether it's the unemployment, whether it's the small business loans, is go ahead and apply. Go ahead and try to apply and go through the process, and God willing, you'll get the benefits that you need. But don't wait on any of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff could take a lot longer than we think. Even though the unemployment benefits, I believe, are supposed to be issued within a week. I don't know if that's the current time frame, but I would say go ahead and apply for unemployment if you can, and also go ahead and apply for any of the loan programs if you can as well, and grant programs. I know we've been applying for everything, anything and everything, and everybody in our community has been so amazing. I must get 20 emails a day about the same exact program that, as soon as it comes out, people send us like, did you see this? Make sure you apply for this. I'm like, okay, we're on it. Thank you so much. Anything else from the stimulus plan that you want to talk about, or leading into what you think might be covered in phase 4?
Go ahead and jump to phase 4. There's not really much to cover. only that President Trump has mentioned infrastructure, and quite frankly, not many of us knows what that means as far as infrastructure and the stimulus. I do know that our House Speaker, she stated that she doesn't feel like phase 3 went far enough. So hopefully we do see more aid coming to our communities, coming to our health centers and our clinics. I mean, in our hospitals.
I am going to make a prediction here that there is going to be in phase 4 an indefinite monthly stipend for all, citizens. Well, I don't know about citizens, but all people that they're currently giving this $1,200 to a month. I think that they're going to just find that, because we don't know how long this is going to go, and that people, like you said, the mass amounts of people on unemployment, and the numbers are probably going to go up even higher in the following month, that the reality is going to sink in, that they're going to have to do whatever they can to keep the people afloat until we get to the other side of that. So that's my prediction, but don't hold me to it.
That's not a bad prediction.
Okay, let's cover a few of the other things that you wanted to go through. Can you talk about Governor Newsom's new health corps program?
Yes, so I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that your elected officials go live. They have these updates. So yesterday, Governor Newsom, he had an update for us all, and two things that he mentioned was health corps. So you can find this information at covid19.ca.gov/healthcorps, CORPS. And what that is basically those who may have been retired, or they are laid off or furloughed currently, and they work in the healthcare profession. They can go onto this website, sign up to basically come on and help fight COVID-19. And I did read that you will be paid, and you will also have malpractice insurance as well. So I'll repeat that. It's covid19.ca.gov/healthcorps, and that's spelled HEALTHCORPS. So you'll be paid as well as have malpractice insurance. So that's huge. And we definitely need more volunteers.
So let me just jump in on that one, because I am not a healthcare practitioner. And yet the people that I know, they're working, they're saving lives literally every day. And yet I do know that they are struggling with whether or not they're being adequately protected themselves. And so I know some people that are in the healthcare profession or retirees have been questioning, this as well. And so I do think that, it's an individual decision for each and every person. I do know if you go into the healthcare profession, you are usually the type of person that's dedicating your life to service, and you are somewhat prepared to step into danger to help save lives. And so by all means, if you feel the call, we absolutely need all hands on deck. We need everybody possible that can step forward. And at the same time, just on an individual level, I would just make sure that, you really are aware of what you're committing yourself to, and, reading the fine print on what's going to be in place to make sure that you are actually being protected as well. So those are my thoughts on that. Moving forward, you were talking about closures of schools.
So yesterday you also mentioned that all schools across the entire state of California will be closed. They will not be reopening until the fall.
The fall?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, I don't know if everybody got that update. So we are not going back to school this year?
No. Unfortunately, I did post it on my Facebook, and I got a few parents that were like, wait, what?
Right, like this one.
I'm so sorry to break some but LUSD did come out with some resources. So you can find that at achieve.lausd.net/resources. And I do know their grab and go food centers will be scaling back a little bit. So please go on there and find out what the school district locally here has planned as we try and deal with COVID-19. And we definitely don't want the kids to go back to school if this is definitely going to be peaking in the next couple of weeks. So I thought it was a great decision. Unfortunately, the parents are going to have to kind of hunker down and figure out this homeschooling thing, but there's plenty of resources out there. They also mentioned that they have mental health resources for both students and parents, because we know this is a trying time. So we want to make sure that they get all the support that they need.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that. Number one, I just want to say, so South LA Cafe is located on Browning and Western Ave in South Central 90062. I know that the neighboring schools are doing the lunch grab and go lunches. And a lot of the schools, even though it's been very successful, a lot of the schools are finding that they're not having as many people come as they had hoped come, or that they think may be in need. And so I have had them mention to us, could we please let people know that meals are available on a daily basis, and that you don't have to be a parent of a child at that school. You don't have to necessarily be in LAUSD. You just have to have a child and need a meal, and that they are doing, contactless, pickup. And so it is actually as safe as possible. And I just want to reiterate that, because I know, especially in our communities, there are a lot of people that need food, that may be lower income, maybe especially right now, a little short on funds given everything that's going on. And we don't want to miss the opportunity to get meals for the kids if possible. So please reach out to your neighboring schools, whether you're following them on social media or their websites, or give them a call, presuming somebody answers, and find out about their meal programs, because I think that that's an untapped resource that seems like we want to really take advantage of. And then the other thing, just maybe to pass along to you in terms of, as you go back to whoever it is you're going to talk to regarding LAUSD, and I think school districts in general, one of the things that I feel as a parent of a child, of two children who are now doing online learning, homeschooling, is in our case, it's so far so good. It's working and the kids seem fine. But what I did notice, at least initially, is it did seem like they were being overloaded with work. And so I think both, for people who are working from home now, but also students who are working from home, it seems like there's been a little bit of a disconnect in like how much work kids should be getting, and even adults should be getting. And then also this a little bit of like, okay, well, maybe we did 100% when we were in school, in regular school, but now we're home and we're also in the time of COVID. And so kids and parents are dealing with such greater levels of stress and out of the ordinary situations and pressures, that I feel like I understand on the schools front, like they want to make sure the kids are following along and checking all the boxes so they can get credit for the year. And yet at the same time, it seems like there's been a little bit of a disconnect in, what is the potential impact of, PTSD or even just stress in the household, to create more spaciousness for the kids' schedules. And then the last piece on that is just also the awareness of presuming that more and more people potentially will end up being sick, that there will be children and also caregivers that are dealing with that in their households and will not be able to, follow along with the lesson plan or whatever. And it's not just going to be a few of them, there's going to be a significant amount of people that are facing that situation. And so I'm hoping that the people in charge of our schools are keeping that in mind and willing to be flexible. That's my little rant. And any thoughts on that?
No, I think that was perfect. And to touch back on the food thing, I want to make sure that we know as a community that there is definitely not a lack of food. I reached out to a community garden recently who told me that they have a bunch of produce and they're just waiting for people to come and pick it up. There's a bunch of food banks happening and distributions happening all over our community. So please tap into those if you are in need of food, because there's definitely not a shortage of it.
Great. Any other things that we haven't covered or you want to make sure we touch upon? I know you said resources, possibly other things that people might want to know about volunteering or being engaged in the election process.
Yes. So different communities are definitely looking for volunteers. I just hope that we are all being aware of that we still have those mandates of 6 feet apart from whoever you will be volunteering with. Please try and have on the gloves and the mask that you need, but there's definitely a need for volunteers across our communities. And I just want to also say on behalf of Civically Me, and we're an organization who is definitely pushing for more civic engagement. We want you all to know who your elected leaders are and who to contact should you ever need to. And in this time, you definitely need to know who they are. So if you need to, please reach out to us at civicallyme.com. And we're on Instagram at civicallyme as well. So please get to know who these folks are who are representing you in your community.
Absolutely. There's a lot, wherever you are, there's a lot of local officials available for you. They're, you can sign up on their newsletters where, I'm receiving from some people, an email every day, every couple of days on here's the latest news. I'm really actually proud of a lot of our local officials and even our mayor and our governor, where they really are doing active communication. Which is, in a time of crisis, that's exactly what we need. We need the people on the front lines talking, sharing information, letting us know exactly what's going on so that we can manage our expectations and really know how to navigate and also feel confident that we have leaders, out there doing what they need to do. There was something that you said I wanted to just touch upon. I know when we discussed this before, I wanted to bring it back up again about the census. Can we just address the census? Because I feel like this is a big concern for me, that in the midst of everything that's going on, that people are going to forget about the 2020 census and just how important it is.
Right. So yesterday was actually National Census Day. I'm not sure when this is going up, but yesterday, the first was National Census Day. And I just really want to stress that we start to realize what that means in our communities, because there was a lot of people who had questions around the individual support through the stimulus package, but the census is also going to support our communities in the same way, as far as providing resources and aid when we need it. And the only way they're going to know how much we need is by knowing how many people reside in these communities. So please fill out the census. You can do it online. You can call in. You can mail it in, I believe, right? You can mail it in.
Yeah. So as we were speaking, I just Googled, and I just want to make clear, it's so simple, you guys. It's 2020, the number 2020 census, census.gov. And if you just put that in your browser, you pull it up right now, you can fill it out. It's a really short application. And what they're just going to ask you information, they are going to ask you information, how many people are in your household, what ages are there, what incomes are you guys making, what's your ethnic background. But this is a completely confidential application. It cannot be shared with any law enforcement. It cannot be shared with ICE, any of the immigration, enforcement officials either. And so, especially in communities like ours that have a lot of documented and undocumented immigrants, as well as people of color, there's a long history of people feeling distrustful of the government, the police, and all that kind of stuff. And so people often don't want to fill out these kind of forms where you're giving up all your personal information. And yet at the same time, we really have to understand that the census is done once a decade, right? Every 10 years. And essentially it's marking every single person that lives in every single community. And based on the information that they receive is how they end up distributing the funds that those communities get. And so if we underrepresent our communities, then we will get less and less money. And we already know that many of the communities where we live are already disenfranchised, are already facing shortages. And so what we really need to do is all fill this out so that we can all be counted, that we can get all of the money that our communities deserve and need.
Right. And the deadline to complete the census has also been moved back to, I believe, mid-August.
Okay, that's great to know.
Initially it was July, but now it's mid-August to give people a little bit more time to get that done.
But the life and business coach in me is going to tell you, like, just do it right now. Okay, 2020. I'm going to go back to that 2020 census.gov. Just go do it. Right? Watch our video, give us some comments and feedback, and then go fill out the census, and then we'll feel like we did our part in making a difference today. Is there anything else, Norchelle, that we haven't covered that you want to make sure we address?
No, that's just about it. But it was just also announced that we are just over 4,500 deaths throughout the nation. So I just want to make sure everyone is being safe and being aware of your surroundings. and being aware of the fact that we are responsible for our neighbors' health as well, not just our own.
Yeah, on that front, I just want to say, stay home, people. The only reason to leave the house is for food, or for medical services or something, emergency services. So if you're a senior, stay at home, get the young people to do the food shopping for you. If you need some food and some nutrition, download the Joe Coffee app that, we have for our cafe, and you can order food right online, and you can send somebody to go pick it up for you, hop in a car and drive right over, and we will do contactless delivery. I also know in our district, CD8, we are partnering with them to do the emergency senior meal program, where meals are being delivered to both the senior homes, but also door to door. And I did see that they just announced today that there is an online application where you can go ahead and sign up and let them know. It's not guaranteed that you'll get a meal, but you can let them know that you'd like to get a meal. And that way, we know how many seniors in our community are needing meals on a daily basis. And the beautiful thing about this program is they're partnering with the local small business food establishments. So we're getting paid to prepare meals and then deliver it to homes, and make sure that the people in our community are getting fed and staying safe in their homes. And so I know that this is happening in Council District 8, but from my understanding is they're trying to replicate the program in other council districts as well. So if you're not in ours, make sure you reach out directly to your council office and let them know, hey, are you aware of what's happening in Council District 8 in Los Angeles? Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson. It's called the Emergency Senior Meal Program. We need that program right now. And also, if you're a small business owner of a food establishment, that you should as well reach out, because honestly, working in this program has allowed us to supplement our revenue so that it's really helping us be able to stay in business, and it's a great asset across the board in our community. That being said, Norchelle, you're amazing. I know we'll have many more conversations to come. Let's definitely plan to touch bases after stimulus plan version 4 or phase 4, and anything else that comes up between now and then. We'd love to hear from you, and we just appreciate your time. We know that you are working very, very hard right now, and that our elected officials are also working very, very hard right now. So thank you for being a channel for what's happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.